centerpiece of the Liberal government's climate agenda. Would that help you in your business getting rid of that levy?
Look, the carbon price is not our biggest problem right now. It adds...
Not his biggest problem. Maybe that's because Algoma Steel has received about $1 billion since 2015 from the Liberal government of Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney. Thank you for joining me today. I'm your host, David Krayden. This is Stand on Guard, and it's a very overcast Wednesday morning here in the Ottawa area. Got a great show ahead for you, though. We're going to be talking about some items of particular interest. So join me. I'm broadcasting live, and I'll be right back in mere moments.
The Prime Minister lied, and his minions continue to lie.
Your home is your castle. We're calling on the government to introduce and immediately pass the Stand on Guard law.
But we also need to resolve to resist.
Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
So we will be revisiting the whole industrial carbon tax and how that relates to Algoma Steel laying off 1,000 workers. And there's a great exchange in the House of Commons between the Prime Minister and the official opposition leader, Pierre Poilievre, and we'll have that for you. But before we get there, what is going on now with the European Union? Why are we now a part of the defense pact with the European Union? Do we want to get dragged into a European war, which lots of lunatics governing European Union countries, such as Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron and others, are just itching to get a war going with Russia? Does Canada want to be part of that war? No, of course we don't. Some people here do because they're making money off of it or could make money off of it. But we'll get into that in a minute. But before I forget, I always forget to do this. Here's my latest Substack. Put it up last night, and it's sort of my recapitulation of last weekend's United Conservative Party annual general meeting. And I discuss in there, I interviewed the chief counsel for the Alberta Prosperity Project, Jeffrey Rath. His comments are in there, as well as portions of Premier Daniel Smith's speech to the convention, which I think was a little bit disingenuous, but politically brilliant, because she managed to talk at the very beginning of the speech about this pipeline that nobody really likes in that party, or at least the vast majority of them are not comfortable with Alberta working with Mark Carney. They don't trust Mark Carney. They don't trust Ottawa. They don't think a pipeline is going to come out of this. However, they love Daniel Smith. They really do. And she's delivered for them on so many issues and policies. So Danielle is just very popular, even though she is a staunch federalist. And I think she'll probably remain so. But she's got mounting problems. But as I said, she pulled the rabbit out of the hat at this annual general meeting. There was no leadership review to even worry about. She managed to keep sort of partial control over the executive, although it would appear that she's got some problems with loyalists not occupying most of the seats. But what came out of this was she bought some time. She managed to remind the membership of the great things she's done as premier. And she has done some great things. I am the first person to say that. But she managed to talk about the pipeline deal with Mark Carney without mentioning Mark Carney once by name. So we'll see what happens. And that's an ongoing story. So thank you for reading that on my Substack today. Now let's get into what's going on with this SAFE treaty. Of course, it's called SAFE. Eh? Everything with the Liberal government's safe. That's why they want to ban your free speech, because it's safe. They want to take your guns away because that's safe too. And they want a military alliance with the European Union because, well, that's safe too. Let's listen to Defense Minister McGuinty waffle his way through this one.
Ago, Canada signed a new security and defence partnership with the European Union. Today, the Prime Minister has announced the conclusion of negotiations for Canada's participation in SAFE. Canada is the only country outside of the European Union to be asked to join the European Union. So it's a very unique opportunity for us. We're here to take your questions.
Ask you, the other non-European country that's been negotiating to join SAFE is the UK. And negotiations have broken down because of the entrance fee. Reportedly, in the case of the UK, $6 billion to join SAFE. What is the amount you expect we're going to be paying to join SAFE?
I'm not aware of the UK situation. And as you know, I learned a long time ago as a former negotiator, never comment on negotiations when you're not at the table.
Sorry, but Minister, there is a fee that will be part of joining SAFE.
We'll have more to say about that in due course.
We've all been called here today because the negotiations on SAFE have been concluded. Why can't you tell us how much Canada is going to have to pay?
Because the fine print in terms of the third and final element of the negotiations continue. We've been allowed to step inside a tent, the European Union tent. The details in terms of costs, percentages are being ironed out. They will be ironed out. But the really good news is we're in the tent.
I can't believe, I find this unfathomable. We're in the tent. What? Pissing out or pissing in? It's incredible to me that this is somehow a great advantage that we're in the European Union tent. This is an organization that just is parasitical. It sucks the lifeblood out of its European membership so it can pursue its woke globalist policies. Do we really want this? But remember what Mark Carney always said about who he is.
Mark, you look like you were about to.
Yeah, it was a tell.
As a European, as a
European, I am a European, actually.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
Oh.
Irish citizen. Yeah, so there you
welcome.
go.
Welcome.
Speaking as a European, I like to say following.
Speaking as a European, well, Mark Carney is still a European. He's never talked about those passports again. And he had 3 of them. Mm-hmm. So he's a European. He wants us to be bound at the hip to the European Union. As I said, a completely useless organization. And let Europe look after its own defense. If the European Union can do one thing right, well, maybe it can do that right. Look after your own damn defense and stop expecting Canada and the United States to do it for you. We're not going over there to fight your war with Russia because it's apparently what you still want to do. So let's have a look at what Mark Carney said about this. And this to me is amazing. This is the Prime Minister's news release. Let's have a look at this because it says a lot. Well, it says nothing. It says a lot. As Canada's new government, it's still the new government, right? It rebuilds, rearms, and reinvests in the Canadian Armed Forces. We are focused on providing the women. Oh, the women come before the men now. I thought there were more men than women in the Canadian Armed Forces. Well, no matter. That's Mark Carney. The women and men in uniform with the equipment they need when they need it. What does that mean? Membership of the EU means we're going to get the equipment we need? Like what? The Saab-produced Gripen fighter jet? Is that what this is alluding to? With the right tools in their arsenal, we will reinforce Canada's sovereignty, create high-paying new careers for Canadian workers. Yeah. What? Making the Gripen jet, right? And strengthen our defense partnerships with allies. No, we're weakening our defense partnership with our primary and chief ally, the United States of America. As part of this mission, Canada signed a security and defense partnership with the European Union earlier this year and launched negotiations toward Canada's participation in, get this, Security Action for Europe. Oh, the acronym is SAFE, a key pillar of the EU's Readiness 2030 plan. What, ready for the war with Russia? For Canada and the EU member states who are NATO allies, this will help deliver on defense capability targets more quickly and economically. Today, meaning yesterday, the Prime Minister, actually that was Monday. Today, the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, announced the conclusion of negotiations for Canada's participation in SAFE. Unlocking billions of dollars. Oh, really? Where? In potential defense opportunities for Canadian businesses. Right. This is a farce. I'm sorry. It's an absolute farce. That's about all I can say about that. Now, let's have a look at question period yesterday, because Mark Carney was actually in town. Now, he wasn't globetrotting, wasn't out doing business for Brookfield Asset Management, wasn't out soliciting business for the old firm. He was actually in question period yet. So let's have a listen to this.
The opposition. Mr. Speaker, we learned today that 8 months after the Prime Minister was elected, promising to build nation-building projects at speeds not seen in generations, he hasn't even begun consulting with First Nations people about his promised pipeline to the Pacific. And now the Assembly of First Nations has condemned his plan because he hasn't done any consulting with them. Today he will address the Assembly. Will he for once say one thing to no matter who the group he's speaking to, be clear that he wants the pipeline to get built and that he'll get the consultations done to make it happen?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the great thing about Hansard is you can consult it and find out what the member opposite said last week. In effect, would we ram through a pipeline? No, never. No, never. We will consult free, prior, informed consent with First Nations. We will work with the province of British Columbia. We have conditions in the MOU with Alberta. We know how to work with the provinces. We know how to consult. We know how to respect. Does the member opposite?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, transcripts are great things, and he just renamed Justin Trudeau's immigration minister to cabinet, the guy who destroyed our immigration system and helped double the housing costs in this country. And that minister has now had something to say about this prime minister's failure to consult on pipelines. He said the consultation should have started yesterday, and it can't be done on a desktop, making reference to his fellow ministers' promise that they would do consultations by Zoom. So why is it that he didn't start 8 months ago consulting First Nations? Is it because he doesn't care what they have to say, or because he just doesn't want the pipeline to get built?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I recognize this situation is very, very complicated for the member opposite. That's right. First off, you have to have a pipeline project. You have to have a private proponent. In order for that to happen, we had to create the conditions precedent. We have now done that because we talked to the provinces. We worked with the provinces. Mr. Speaker, in the Building Canada Act, which was passed before the member opposite returned to this House, we set out the consultation process for nation-building projects.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
So he's broken his promise to get big projects built, and now we learn that he has broken his promise to get houses built. He promised during the election he would double home building to 500,000 units per year. Today, the Parliamentary Budget Officer revealed that his brand new bureaucracy will only build 5,000 homes per year, 99% less than he promised, Mr. Speaker, after Conservatives built well over 200,000 homes at half the cost today. Why won't he listen to us and stop building bureaucracy so that we can start building homes?
So, of course, he revisited the fact that Mark Carney doesn't want a pipeline. And Mark Carney likes to pretend this is so complicated. It's just too complicated for the leader of the official opposition to even contemplate. Actually, it's very simple. Mark Carney is playing both sides of the street. He doesn't really want a pipeline bill. He wants to placate Alberta. He wants to embarrass Alberta. That's really what he's up to here. And in the process, he wants Canadians distracted from what he's really doing, which is put his hand in your pocket. Brookfield is looting Canada right now. This is what's happening. Now, Pierre Poilievre did ask earlier this week about why 1,000 layoffs when you just subsidized the company? You just gave it a handout. And Does it have something to do with the industrial carbon tax? Is this a big veneer about, oh, it's Trump's tariffs and it's not the industrial carbon tax? Well, let's listen to what he had to say about that. Oh, sorry, having some problem with that. Well, we'll have to get back to that one. I don't know why, but this is interesting. I'm having some trouble getting this going. I don't know why. All right, we're going to go back to the
centerpiece of the Liberal government's climate agenda. Would that help you in your business getting rid of that levy?
Look, the carbon price is not our biggest problem right now. It adds, $10, $20 per ton of steel to our production costs. When we are EAF, when we're converted to the EAF, our carbon intensity will be 70% lower. So we'll actually have an advantage versus our competitors in both the U.S. and Canada that are making blast furnace steel that have a much higher carbon intensity. So we see that as a competitive advantage. We can deal with the carbon price. I think the government needs to be mindful of the escalation of it. Yes, they have to be mindful that it never becomes a barrier to a steel company being successful, or never becomes a barrier to be able to continue to implement and improve your operations. But as long as it doesn't become that and it's implemented in a reasonable way, the carbon price is not the problem here.
The Prime Minister is set.
No. No.
Algoma announced it's laying off 1,000 steel workers, nearly a third of its workforce in the Sioux. Our thoughts are with them. The Prime Minister looked them in the eye and promised he would protect their jobs, that he would negotiate a win, and I quote, have a deal by July 21st, but it was a bait and switch that is costing people their livelihoods. On top of that, Liberals are hammering the steel mill with a higher industrial carbon tax. Isn't it bad enough that the Prime Minister broke his promise on trade? Why is he going ahead with an industrial carbon tax that will kill even more steel jobs?
Obviously, our thoughts are with the workers affected by the unjustified and unjustifiable tariffs imposed by the White House, and we'll continue to work with them as Algoma Steel is going through a difficult situation, to say the least. Mr. Speaker, my team and I have been in contact with Algoma's leadership team. We absolutely have every confidence in the Algoma workers as they're going through this hardship, and we will make sure that we support them as they're developing new products and also accessing new markets. We'll fight for these jobs, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, so remember Mark Carney, first of all, saying that you use a lot of steel lately? And we showed you that yesterday. Then, of course, he's talking about all of these projects that are potentially going to consume millions, tons of steel. So how come we don't have a market for steel in Canada, but it's all being blamed on the United States tariffs? Well, even if we don't sell another sheet of steel to the United States, doesn't Algoma have a market in Canada for all of these projects Mark Carney's promising to push through? Yeah, I think there's a bit of a disconnect there. Somebody's not telling the truth. for Algoma to say, well, it's got nothing to do with the industrial carbon tax. It's all Trump tariffs. And thank you very much for the money, for the subsidies, which you continue to throw our way. Unfortunately, that's how business is conducted in Canada right now. We have described this as crony capitalism. So if you're a good friend of the government, you'll stay in business. You'll keep getting rich. You might have to lay off some of those workers in the process. They won't be getting rich. They'll be looking for jobs because you think you're going to hire them back in what, a month, 3 months, 6 months? Probably not. But this is the Mark Carney system of government. Yeah, there's a word for it. Starts with an F. And that is exactly how the corruption in this Mark Carney government is being unleashed upon Canadian workers, on Canadian businesses that aren't part of the club, that don't belong to the Carney club. And that's exactly what's happening here. Now, we're going to take a little journey through some of the breaking news on X-Ray in a minute here, but wanted to remind you of our merchandise. And these are our brand new stickers here. We'll be quite proud because we talk a lot about psyops on this station. We're under a regime that gives us one psyop after another. So this is you. And why? Because we're coming closer and closer every day to actually living in 1984 with Mark Carney as Big Brother. He'll be watching you and he'll be telling you what you can and what you cannot say. This is why we're continuing to fight all of these bills that could take away your foundational freedom of speech. And we'll continue to fight those bills. And hats off to Conservative MP Andrew Lawton, who is fighting those bills quite vociferously. I think we need to hear a little more about those bills from his leader, Pierre Poilievre. I need new conspiracy theories, yes, because all the old ones did come true. And we're not conspiracy theorists. We know that conspiracies happen. And you can get that also in a great mug and t-shirt. And of course, lest I forget, the ostrich stickers are still for sale. And they will be. So get them and get your ostrich hoodie with justice for the ostriches. And you can get them in black, white, or gray. We're quite proud of these. And these stickers, I think, are going to be part of the whole memorial to what happened to United Ostrich Farms and what can't happen again. And because of the pushback and because of the work of Katie Piscitney and her family, I predict it is going to at least decrease in tempo, and the CFIA is at the beginning of its end. Thank God for that. Let's have a look at our merchandise video. You can buy all of this at our store, and thank you for the patronage you have exhibited over the last couple of months, especially. We appreciate it so much. And some people think that's the best part of the show when we go to my X page and read some of the latest news that's coming across. It is fascinating because it goes to show you. And of course, I invite you to watch yesterday's show. That we had a marvelous time talking about how this government wants to take away your foundational freedom. Yeah, this is how our government works. Take your bag of cash and keep your mouth shut. And don't blame the industrial carbon tax for anything. Here's a post from Murray Lozon. Going with electricity arc furnaces as a CO2 reduction has reduced the competitiveness of Algoma Steel. Making virgin steel via dry EAF is significantly more expensive than the traditional blast furnace route. With recent cost estimates for the, quote, green premium, unquote, being around $225 per ton, a high hydrogen cost. No wonder our shipbuilding is getting too expensive. This is why BC went to China for the ferries. Well, there must have been some reason for BC to do that. Always follow the money. Liberal green policies are hurting our competitiveness. Oh, yes. Big, big time. I love this. Government subsidies from 2015 to December 2025. Government subsidies given to Algoma Steel, $1.13 billion. Taxes Algoma paid back, $150 to $200 million. A little bit of a gap there. Net profit Algoma made, $1.05 billion. Cash bonuses paid to the board, to the executives, $35 to $45 million. In short, Algoma has taken $1.13 billion from taxpayers, paid back under $200 million in taxes, made no profit, actually lost over $1 billion, and still paid its executives $35 to $45 million. Yeah, sir, I misread that net profit. They lost $1.05 billion. It's a negative sign there. So they're essentially, no, not even essentially, they are living off the backs of Canadian taxpayers. That's how this company exists. So is there any rhyme or reason to that? And they can still lay off people. But of course, the executives get richer and richer. How corrupt is this? Yeah, I love this. Together, Winston Smith, by the way, if you don't know, that's the moniker of the character in George Orwell's 1984. That's the main character. Somebody has cleverly called himself there the next. Together, we can build the strongest money laundering machines in the world. You know, don't you hate those photographs with the, you know, you want to call it potted plants, or you want to call it the forced labor, perhaps? People who are told, stand behind the prime minister and look happy. And of course, we saw the results of that when Justin Trudeau was at a construction site, and one of the workers put his hard hat literally over his face and bowed in shame. And it takes a lot of guts to do that, because believe me, this is a loyalty test. Yeah. Great research here from Winston Smith about why this is going on. This might be a little strong. I won't repeat this verbatim from government exec. It's corrupt. David McGuinty says negotiations on Canada joining the EU SAFE program are finished. But he can't tell us how much it will cost us, that we should just be happy we've been invited into the EU tent, and we'll have to trust them. I'm so sick of these effing liberals. F the EU. They get away with this. They continue to get away with this. And this dolt can't even tell you how much it's going to cost. The cost keeps going up or going down, depending upon what month you sign or when you're finally let in. This is, you know, kind of like buying a used car, I suppose. David Parker writes here, Alberta Christians, they are burning down your churches. When will you do something about it? Look at this. Look at this. That, of course, is a church in Edmonton. And there have been so many instances of arson, burning down Canadian churches. And remember what Justin Trudeau had to say about that? Well, that's understandable because, you know, people just hate Christians. And that's okay because Christians are to blame for everything, Justin Trudeau said. And he understands why there's such animosity, such acrimony, such bitterness, such anger towards churches and Christians in general, because they're to blame for all the ills in our country. That's Justin Trudeau's. Now, I look at a poll like this from Abacus Data, and I'm saying, what the hell is going on here with the disconnect between how Canadians view where the country's going and why they continue to support Mark Carney in the same polls? 37%, only 37%, slightly over a third of Canadians think the country is on the right track. 48%, almost half of Canadians think it's on the wrong track. 15% don't know what the hell. Unsure. By the way, if you ever get a poll, don't say you're unsure. You must have an opinion on it. Because if anyone ever asked me, and I would tell them one or the other. Not that I really don't know. You know, no thanks, I'd rather partner with North Americans. Well, no kidding. That's where our markets are. We don't belong to the British Empire anymore. And the Commonwealth is a pretty shaky organization right now because the monarchy in Great Britain is faltering. And because the UK itself is on the brink of economic catastrophe under Herr Keir Starmer. So to partner with Europe makes absolutely no sense. But this is what Mark Carney is all about. And there she is. There she is. Ursula von der Leyen. Welcome to Safe Canada. When like-minded partners join forces on security and defense in a turbulent world, our countries grow stronger, our industries benefit, and our citizens are safer. What a pile of BS. We're not stronger. We're weaker. Our industries are not benefiting, and our countries are not safer. We're closer to potential catastrophe with a nuclear war with Russia, because that's what people like Ursula really want. Keeps the people distracted. Oh, we're not going to have anything left afterwards? Oh, well, no matter. I love this comment here. Can someone explain to me why, like, my elbows are up, how it is considered treasonous to want Canada to be part of the United States, but not treasonous to want Canada to be part of the European Union? I don't know. Of course, it makes no sense. And here's a great response from Judy Shade. I put up Katie's last missive the other day, and on misinformation, how she and the farm and the family have been perpetual victims of misinformation from bots that I believe in many cases were government bots, or were getting assistance from the government to attack the farm and to attack the people there. Universal Ostrich Farm is correcting misinformation that has been fueled by the CFI in Canada after the government of Canada slaughtered a healthy herd of ostriches. This has been horrific, and the CFIA needs to be dismantled as soon as possible. And that's what I believe is going to happen. Yeah. And there's so many other reactions to that post I put up yesterday morning. And thank you all of you who still remain committed for justice for this farm, justice for these ostriches, justice for this family, and justice for the CFIA that violated provincial regulations and laws in the aftermath of its massacre, its inhuman massacre of hundreds of ostriches, and its brutal occupation of this farm for almost 7 weeks. Thank you for continuing to care. I still cannot believe the horror you and your mom, especially supporters and your ostrich, had to endure and then suffer through. Unbelievable. There has been no action taken against people who committed an extreme act of cruelty. Every person there complicit should be charged. You bet. And that's, Katie continues to work for. Hope you enjoyed that journey down X here. And of course, the Brookfield, it's not the Liberal Party of Canada. It's the Brookfield Party of Canada. And you know, the Liberal Party of Canada used to be almost normal at one time. It used to sort of be a viable alternative. And there were days when actually the Liberal Party was quite normal before it was taken down a woke left-wing path. But what's happened to the Liberal Party under Mark Carney is beyond just being drawn into left-wing politics. Yes, thank you for that comment. The CFIA was willing to test the peacocks, but not the ostriches. I believe they tested those peacocks because of the pushback from Universal Ostrich Farms and all of the independent journalists who joined in that pushback. But what I'm saying here about the Liberal Party today, it truly is the Brookfield Party of Canada. That's what we have now. Mark Carney is running a government that is completely seized by the opportunity to continue to enrich Brookfield Asset Management with contracts galore. And that's what's motivating this government. It's hard to believe we are immersed in such levels of corruption. But that's exactly where we are in this country right now because of the complete disaster that Mark Carney has been as a prime minister. So tell me, if 48% of you don't think we're on the right track, how come 48% of you are continuing to support Mark Carney in the Liberal Party? Or at least a substantial portion of that. Enough for him potentially to win a majority government. But this is what I'm going to say this again. This is my free advice to the Conservative Party of Canada. I offer this at least once a week. If you want to win the next election, don't just talk about the same talking points you used in the last federal election about safe streets, safe communities, jail, not bail, and all of these things. Start talking about freedom, talking about guaranteeing freedom of speech. Start talking about guaranteeing freedom of property, your property rights in this country, your right to own property. Start talking about that and start talking about how corrupt the Carney regime is. Start talking about how this level of corruption cannot be sustained because the country is being hollowed out and looted by this gang. That's what they are. They're gang. It's a gang and they're gangsters. And this is why we have to push back. And believe me, this would be a winning foundation, a winning platform, a winning solution for Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party if it really wanted to fight for truth and justice in this next election. It can. And if the Pierre Poilievre we saw over the weekend at the National Press Club annual dinner is the same Pierre Poilievre we see on the next campaign trail, I think he could quite easily overshadow the absolute boredom, the static attitude and posturing of Mark Carney. I think that's a good possibility. So thank you for watching today, folks. And by the way, I'm on again tonight, 6:30 Eastern Time, with my good friend Nico Lagan with the Conservative Corner, and where we talk unapologetically about issues of interest to small c conservatives and libertarians, small l libertarians, and both of us demonstrate we're in nobody's pocket. I hope you can join us tonight at 6:30 for that, 6:30 Eastern Time. That's the Conservative Corner. Thank you for watching today. Don't give up. Resolve to resist, resolve to fight on, resolve to make this country free again. resolve to never give up. We'll be back again tomorrow with all the news you need to know. Thank you. Thank you for that. We'll be back again tomorrow. Thank you for sharing this station with your friends and family. Thank you for hitting that like button, because I tell you, we are fighting back in a way I've never had to before, because I'm going to keep this station on the air. I'm going to keep fighting for freedom. I'm going to keep fighting for justice and truth. And I am damn determined to resist this Carney government in any way possible as it encroaches upon our individual freedom. And it will continue to do that, mark my words. I'll be back again tomorrow. Same time, same place. 10 a.m. This has been David Krayden, broadcasting live from our nation's capital in Ottawa. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow.